And we are back here with another Observer of Football podcast with the man, the myth, the legend, Jonathan Viscosi. Jonathan, how are you doing today?
Thanks, Keith. I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me, and yeah, I've been looking forward to this. Been seeing your clips online and really enjoyed that. So I feel like I'm meeting a myth and a legend as well. So it's right back at you.
Well, I really appreciate those flattering words. When talking with the community here, especially with, Red River Rising, Patrick DiStefani, my recent podcast, they said I had to talk to you, Jonathan, because again, you have such great experience, such knowledge, and also you got to play 2 seasons with Valor. So I think this is a really great aspect here to do a deep dive on your career and also just talk about your experience with Valor and what you're going on in post retirement. So again, just can't wait to get to talk to you more about that. But Jonathan, I have to ask. So I know that you have a little bit of Italian heritage in you. You're also from Canada, but what prompted you to get into the game of soccer? Was it more family kind of influence? Like, what kind of got you into the game?
Yeah, for sure. Family influence. Probably 95% my older brother, 3 years older than me, who was doing it, and I wanted to join him and be with his friends and play along as well. Um, and definitely like the cultural identity aspect of being Italian, and like watching the Italian national team with my grandparents, with my aunts and uncles, and just like how that brought the family together. And there were some early experiences when I was quite young, like late 90s, early 2000s, where I was able to see kind of how like it brought the community together and celebrate some of the achievements the Italian national team did. And yeah, like that just kind of spurred the passion for it. So it was probably a combination of all those things.
I love to hear that too. And you know what? It's actually been kind of interesting. Like I've had other guests on before too, and there always seems to be like this sibling rivalry that helps kind of bring the best out of yourself in terms of like players how they get their development. But between you and me, who is the better soccer player, you or your brother?
Yeah. Um, so he would say me now. When we were growing up, I would have said him. I really looked up to him. He probably would have said him himself as well. Um, he was playing for Carleton University in the OUA CIS soccer. I would have been in grade 9 or 10 at the time, and I would like take the bus and then the train to get to the stadium, and I would be there, and I'd be like watching the games, and like to me that was a professional environment. So I really looked up to him, and he was, yeah, a huge influence on me. And then being a goalkeeper, it helps to have somebody 3 years older who it wants to rip shots at you all the time. And we definitely tore up the side of the house, the grass there, and putting poles in and making nets. And yeah, huge factor in helping me develop, but also like that, sibling rivalry in a positive way. And we had a lot of fun, and we still reminisce about those days now. Now we're both in our 30s, so.
Love to see it. Love to hear that. And honestly, it's always kind of funny too. It's like it's always that like, oh, the guests always say it's, oh, I'm the better. They admit that I'm the better player now, but growing up, it may have been the case. So I always like kind of hearing that because again, I'm an only child, so I can't really relate on that in that area. So it's always kind of neat to deep dive on that. But I do have to also ask this as well. I mean, you also have we're gonna hone in here like the Italian heritage. Was there any idols, like role models you were kind of watching growing up? I know obviously there's the one, the only Gianluigi Buffon, of course. Is there any role models that you really like to watching soccer growing up?
Yeah, 100%. So we connected quite quickly with your goalkeeping background. You being a Juventus fan, what year are you born, if you don't mind me asking?
95.
95. Okay, so I think anyone who was, yeah, watching soccer, if you're Italian, if you're a goalkeeper, you're naturally going to be drawn to Gianluigi Buffon, and then naturally be drawn to Juventus, given that he spent his whole career there, right? Um, so yeah, big Juventus fan. Gianluigi Buffon was my idol. I had a poster of him. I knew everything about him. Every January 28th, I wish him a happy birthday internally. Um, like looked up to him in every aspect. He was for sure my idol, but he wasn't the first one. Francesco Teldo was actually the first one. Watching him in the 2000 Euros, going up against Edwin van der Sar in the semifinals against Holland, in the penalties, both of them were incredible. But yeah, I just remember watching him there, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he also played in 2002, right? The 2002 World Cup.
He did as well, yes.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember, like, just seeing him as the goalkeeper with that gray shirt on, and he had this presence to him. So those were the two really early ones. But then after that, I came to appreciate many goalkeepers, and like right up until even now that I'm not playing anymore, but right up until 5, 6 months ago when I was still playing, there were still goalkeepers that I would really look up to, and they there was a point where then they started to be younger than me. But still, like, and just keeping it within the Italian heritage, like Gianluigi Donnarumma it's so cool to see him play in the Premier League now. Yeah, that's a league I follow closer, and he's playing for a highly visible team, and he's doing incredible there. And I've always wanted to see. There's been some good Italian keepers that have played in the Premier League, right? Like Vicario's been doing great, but it's cool to see him, and he's killing it. He's having such a good season, and I think he's really really shown his level. Not that he didn't show it before, but he's showing it on a really big stage now.
Absolutely. And I mean, you got to think of, like, I remember when he first popped on the scene at AC Milan at the age of 16, and like how if so this be this next world beater. I remember going to Minneapolis there and watching Chelsea against AC Milan. He was like 17 years old, and just it feels like he's been around forever. I feel like he's in his like late 30s by now, but he's only like in his mid 20s. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, absolutely just amazing goalkeeper. And like you said too, like Italians just know how to develop goalkeepers. I mean, you got obviously say Vicario, Donnarumma, Carnesecchi from Atalanta as well. I think there's a new one coming up, Emil Caprile as well. So there's a lot coming through. But you know what? Hey, I always got to appreciate Juventus fan. Unfortunate what happened to them against the Galatasaray in the Champions League there. But you know what? Hopefully we can see a resurgence back to the golden ages there back in the 2010s. So love to hear it. Love to hear it. Now,
Yeah.
Jonathan, I have to ask you too. So, I've talked to other goalkeepers as well before, like Matt Silva. I've talked to other goalkeepers like Tyson Farrago, and they always said that sometimes, starting off in goalkeeper wasn't always the first choice going through their youth. Like, where did you start in the outfield or forward? Like, how did you in your youth? Did you ultimately play goalkeeper the whole time, or did you play out to start?
Yeah, no, naturally. Like, I don't think you can start playing soccer like straight as a goalkeeper. Maybe you can now, but back then, obviously, it wasn't the case. So, um, like, not until like competitively, but it was really early, like 10, 11. Like, you're playing the first half in goal or second half on the field, something like that. Like, you're kind of doing both. And I did that up until I was 12, and then got in a really bad car accident. That's where I got the scars on my face. So I had my face all bandaged up for like close to the better part of a year. And in that time, I don't know if it was my mom or if it was the coach himself, but the coach I was playing for, who I really looked up to, basically said like, "You're not playing goal right now, right? Like you can't risk taking a shot to the face or anything." So I played as like a number 10 that whole season, and that would have been. It must have been under 12. It was the first year that you went on the big field, and it was tough because I really wanted to play in goal. There's this thing called the Danone Cup. I'm not sure if it's still going on. It's like a U11 international tournament in France, and Canada sends like a national team, right? And it's like sponsored by Danone, the yogurt company. Um, and I remember the tryouts for that were like 2 weeks after I had the car accidents. And I remember telling the doctor, like, I had a tournament on Boxing Day, and this accident happened on the 23rd of December. So, like, 3 days, I remember asking the doctor in the hospital, I go, "Am I gonna be good to play?" He just like, I didn't look, I didn't see myself in the mirror. I didn't quite know what happened, right? Um, but anyways, for that, like, I was training for that. I was preparing for that. My older brother was helping me, like, prepare for that. So I went for that anyways, and I did really well, made it to, like, the final cut. I didn't ultimately get selected, but, like, I actually remember recognizing that I'm actually a really good goalkeeper. And then, yeah, going into that club season at a young age, and the coach is like, "No, we're bringing in this other goalkeeper, and you're playing as a player this year because your face needs to recover." So I did have that extra year as a player, and then from then onwards, it was always as a goalkeeper. But I think there's pictures of me playing house league in Ottawa. Must have been like 6 or 7, and I had a pair of all sport gloves, like for the team photo. So I there was something that fascinated me about being a goalkeeper. I loved it, and I felt that I wanted to be a goalkeeper like from a really young age.
Well, that's also really good to hear too, because I mean, I'm also helping coaching an academy here in Winnipeg right now as well. And the goalkeepers are a specific breed because, like, I've been trying to we've been playing some league games, and trust me, not all the kids want to be goalkeeper. They play in a game, they get a couple shots, and they're like, "I'm not playing," and I have to like to barter with them. Okay, you play in this half, then you play out the whole second half, and it's again, it's a specific identity. Like it's a specific. I don't think you can teach it, but as being a goalkeeper, right? Because again, like they always kind of said, you have to be crazy to be a goalie. That's what the famous saying is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I kind of would fight against that a lot, like, especially playing in England. I know we'll get to it, like, a lot of, like, preconceived notions of what a goalkeeper is, and you get categorized and you get boxed, and I think it's the same in hockey too. It is a very unique position. We're privileged here in Winnipeg to watch one of the best goalkeepers of or goalies of the hockey generation, right, in Hellebuck, and, hearing everything that's, like, said about him, and so it definitely transfers between those 2 sports. Um, I agree with you, it does. I think it's more not that, like, you need to be crazy, it's more just, like, you need to be highly passionate, and you really need to enjoy it, and, like, I would always say there's something about the willingness to put your face in front of a ball, um, like, you need to have that or else you're not gonna be a good goalkeeper, and that's why whenever I play for fun, and now that I'm playing for fun, you don't wanna necessarily play in goal because it's very takes a big commitment, like, you need to bring yourself to, like, a very intensive state to be able to defend the goal properly and, like, or else you could get injured, right? So, it's the thing that you kinda miss out on is, like, the fun aspect of, like, when you roll the sleeves up and it's sunny and you're just having a kickabout, like, I always found it hard to play in goal in those moments, but, like, competitively, I absolutely loved it.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I had the pleasure of watching you on the field many times throughout this last 2 seasons here at Valour, and you can tell you're a competitor out there. Like you're passionate. Like I mean, that's one thing that's what you can really see out there, especially how the way you command your line. And I feel like that's a when I talk to other keepers around here, that's one aspect and ability that they kind of just lose out on is that ability to command. And again, that passion's what you kind of need. And when you speak of like passion, I automatically think of Oliver Kahn. Like I mean, that guy was the definition of passion for a goalkeeper. But no, I think that's mostly great to highlight there too. Now,
Le
yeah,
I just got a point on that, and again, we didn't discuss this, but you mentioned 2 iconic goalkeepers. You mentioned Oliver Kahn and Gianluigi Buffon, and I think those are, like, the best examples of kind of how no 2 goalkeepers are the same, right? And I think those are almost like polar opposites. Both iconic, so dominant, like, best of all time, you can say, right? But one portrays that angry, aggressive, fierce, competitor type goalkeeper, right? That like does come off as crazy and mean and always angry, like fits a lot of those boxes of what a goalkeeper is like preconceived to be. And then you have Gianluigi Buffon, who's like the complete opposite, right? Like he's a Renaissance man. He's got such a beautiful perspective on the game and he brought like a positivity and a joy to it, and he made the position of goalkeeping like positive in an aspect, and I looked up to him, and that's what I wanted to always do. So he was very commanding, and he was also very fierce, but he did it in a way that like brought the team together and and it was just such a pivotal point. So that's really what I tried to do. But I think those are 2 such great examples of like how the position has evolved, and both of them like led it in their own way. And it's like you could kind of it's almost like you can pick 2 paths, but then there is a lot of room in the middle. And now you have these other goalkeepers that they're basically like number 10s in the goal, and it's a completely different, you know, personality and persona and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see how the position has evolved over the years.
especially yeah, and I mean, and great comparisons there too. And I mean, even I think one of the persons again, I mean, you're a professional goalkeeper, so you can kind of play off this. But I think one of the like talking about how Buffon brought that composure at the back, who commanded his line in his own way. Oliver Kahn, who was a little bit more eccentric, more loud. He obviously wore his heart on the sleeve. But then you look at players like another goalkeeper that I feel like is underrated too, Petr Cech, how he was able to go throughout the years. Even the guy who's revolutionized, I think, the goalkeeper position in the last decade, Emmanuel Neuer. Just how with
Yeah.
his sweeping style, it's again, there's all these different styles and how they can again create how the development position has gone through. But again, it's how that styles they apply to it. And again, that's one thing I appreciate with the goalkeeper position because I feel like it's not unless you're a goalkeeper, you don't really actually appreciate how the development is of the position. So it's a great to see that perspective.
And the individual behind the goalkeeper. Like Peter Cech is such a great example. Like he was also one of my idols that I looked up to of like he was a really smart goalkeeper, right? And then you have somebody like Jordan Pickford, who I also love, right? Who gives off the persona of being a little bit of like the thick-headed goalkeeper of he just goes out there and finds a way to stop the ball where Peter Cech like analyzed every little detail of it and like studied a new language every single season and like did a master's degree and he's probably onto a PhD now. So it's just interesting to see all these different and Neuer as well, German goalkeeper, like so dominant, but very different to Oliver Kahn or Lehman or like the keepers that came before him. So 100%, like we can probably talk goalkeepers all day. So happy to
Absolutely.
take the conversation forward.
Well, you know what? Hey, I could be here for hours talking about goalkeepers as well, but obviously we got to talk about your career. So, I mean, obviously we talked about how your development there. You obviously wanted to be in the net between the sticks. You finally got that chance after your being a number 10 there. But for a lot of us growing up here in Canada, there wasn't much of a development path like you saw in hockey here, right? So, obviously when you kind of you're getting in your teenage years to take that next development opportunity, a lot of us had to go down to the U.S. To go play in college or university ball there. Can you just kind of take me around that whole experience? Like, because again, it's a whole new level to go to college and play in a whole new country. I mean, it's a whole new different type of game is there as well. Can you just kind of take me through how that whole experience was for you?
100%. Yeah, it was definitely a very interesting time. That was kind of like the clear pathway that was there. Um, the other thing that's interesting about when we grew up, like through the 90s, early 2000s, and then like getting to that age where you're competitive and you're looking for the next level, when that was like, it was also very early in the rise of the internet. So there wasn't actually the same communication pathways. There wasn't as much visibility. It was like different challenges in terms of being able to provide exposure,
Mm.
but also it presented like a lot of opportunities. Like if you were proactive and you reached out and you um basically like networked and found those communication lines and found ways to make yourself visible, you can create opportunities for yourself that now are probably a lot harder because everything is visible and the player pool is so much bigger, right? Like there was probably a great goalkeeper in Winnipeg that didn't, wasn't able to catch the eye or like exchange communication with scouts from universities in the northeast of the United States. But because that's where I was able to do that. Now they can look at everybody and everywhere, and there's a lot more to pick from. So um I think again, like having the help of my older brother and him going through that process where with no guidance and kind of figuring things out, I kind of got his lessons learned and how to go about it. So more or less how it was is there was no academies, right? You didn't have like TFC just kind of formed. Was it like 2006, something like
Roughly
that?
around there, yeah.
Yeah. So there was no professional academies in place. You had your provincial league, which was like the highest level that you can play at the youth level. So it was the OYSL in Ontario, and then you had the regional team, and then you had the provincial team, and then you had obviously the youth national teams. Being from Ottawa, it was really hard to break into those. You can play for your regional team in Ottawa, but it was really hard to play for the provincial team because the training camps and everything was out of Toronto, and it just added an extra complexity that they wouldn't necessarily look at players from Ottawa unless you were like an exceptional talent, like really, really like over and above everyone that they had there. So didn't quite have those opportunities until I was 17 with the Canada Games team in Ontario. Actually didn't get selected as one of the two keepers, but then there was an injury and they called me and they wanted me to go. But at that point, I already committed to going to a university. With my youth team, OSU, we had a lot of success at that under 17 age in the OISL. I think we finished second in the Ontario Cup and third in the league. I led the league in shutouts and had like a really good season. And then we'd go to the Disney tournament. That was like the one tournament in the US that we'd go to where we would try and kind of send out, communications to all the different coaches from the universities that we were trying to, attract more or less. And that was like the one chance where they can come and see us, and you did what you could with that. So we also had the misconception of like what the scholarship opportunity was like. Like we thought you got a scholarship and it meant like you don't pay a cent. It's a full ride. That wasn't the reality back then. There was a lot of constraints in NCAA soccer that realistically like nobody was getting a full scholarship, especially in their first year. So the first offer I got was from Northern Illinois from that Disney tournament. And it was a 50% scholarship, which was actually a pretty good scholarship for a first year. And there was increments going on. But we looked at it, like my dad looked at it and he just goes like, in what world do you pay $25,000 with a 50% scholarship? Like that just doesn't make any sense. When you can go to university in Ontario for 6,000 paying 100% of it. It just didn't make any sense. So we kind of like, didn't progress with that one. And then as it went on, I was close to committing to a school in Ontario. There was a couple schools, and I was open to that. My brother played in that league. It looked good, but my main intent was to play professional. So it was like, how can I find my way to the professional level? And I actually got connected with an agent quite young, and he was really smart in advising me. He goes, "Look, here are some of the opportunities, like the requests I get from Europe for goalkeepers, right? You're not ready for that yet. If you go to the US and get a scholarship and play over there, one, you're gonna get a degree, so you're gonna have less pressure on yourself to have to get earn a lot of money, and because you're always gonna have that to fall back on, and you're gonna have a career after soccer. Two, it's gonna give you more time to develop, right? And three, it then also gives you more exposure. There's gonna be recordings. You can send out videos. So he basically convinced me that that was the next step. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So he connected me with an NAIA school and a goalkeeping coach that was at the University of Mobile in Alabama. They didn't need a keeper, but he knew that the University of Rio Grande in Southern Ohio needed a goalkeeper. And that was the best NAIA. I still think it's one of the best NAIA soccer schools in in the US. And because of the rules, they basically attracted all foreign players, a lot from the UK. And they would get these players that would be released from academies or like first or second year professional, and it would bring them over. We had some Brazilian players, we had a couple players from Australia, so I went there and saw it. It wasn't glamorous at all. It was like in the middle of nowhere, incredible soccer facilities. Like there's so much money invested in that program. Um, but like wasn't the idea of going to the US for university. But then I saw the level and I was like, these guys are incredible. Like they were so good. And they set up a training session with a PDL team, like you had here in Winnipeg. It was the West Virginia Chaos. And it had a really good training session. The coach goes, yeah, like we want to bring him in, and offered me a good scholarship that made sense. So committed to that and turned down another Division 1 school that didn't have as good of a soccer program. So that was a little bit of a tough decision, but the idea was this is how I can become a professional. And they had players that were going on and playing professional. So I went there, and then the first year got hit with the reality that you're not as good as you think you are, and they didn't bring you into play right away. And that was very humbling. And the way that that's communicated within US universities at the time, this would have been 2009, is kind of like the harsh reality way of getting the message,
Mhm.
but it helped me grow a lot. And I remember my first thing was I need to transfer. So I was trying to call all the other schools that I was speaking to, but because I wasn't playing, I wasn't attracted to them at that point. So I kind of had to dig in, and I found an opportunity to play in PDL that summer in Albany, New York, for the Albany Highlanders. Um, and it was in the same league that the graduate assistants were playing in. They were playing for Maine, and we played them twice. And I played both those games, and I played really well against them. So then going back to training camp the next year, they already said to the coach, like, yeah, we saw Jono play over the summer. We played against him. He was looking really sharp. Like he's looking good. And I also got fortunate that our starting goalkeeper dislocated his shoulder playing in the same league in the PDL. So I was going in and competing against three other keepers. And at one point in my first year, found myself as the fourth goalkeeper. So I was at the bottom of that, and then had a really good preseason. And I remember the day before the first game, and the coach goes, "Okay, like just to go through the shape and set piece and stuff, I'm gonna announce the starting 11." It was like in goal, Jono, and like I almost like I stepped forward, like, and the guys kind of laughed, like, but I was like, I won it, like I won the position. It was
Yeah.
so like satisfying, and I actually never lost a game at Rio Grande. I started 15 games in a row, kept 10 clean sheets and zero losses, and I got like all conference, like all those kind of those accolades. So I had a really good season. Didn't play in nationals because I actually had a fallout with the coach. Again, a little bit of lack of maturity, big learning from it. And that kind of helped me. Okay, it's time to transfer. And because I had such a good season, I was able to transfer to the University of Buffalo, and went in as one of the captains, uh, went in as a starter, and I enjoyed basically 3 spring seasons and 2 full fall seasons there. And it was an incredible experience. Loved it. So that's the long-winded answer of, like, how I went about finding the right opportunity. So I got experience from both, and 100% the development of playing with those seasoned players from Europe and other parts of the world that already play pro. They taught me so much about the game and so much about, like, the mental side of, like, having a competitive mentality, that I took that to UB and really brought that to them there. And we didn't like we played in a good conference, so we had really good games. We weren't the best team, but we were competitive. Like we competed well. And then after that, it was like, okay, what's next? And playing through the PDL leagues in the summer, continued to do that, and then that original goalkeeper coach from the University of Mobile then was the goalkeeping coach of the New England Revolution, and their starting goalkeeper was Bobby Shuttleworth, who was from the University of Buffalo. So they brought me in before my last season to do like 2 weeks of training. I actually lived with Bobby, and that was like, this is definitely what I want to do. I got a glimpse of what it meant to be a professional and going every day, and it was incredible. But that was the same year where they came up with the rule that Canadians count as foreign players in the MLS. So realistically, I could have went in there as a third goalkeeper. That's what they brought me in to look at.
Mhm.
But given that rule, that just became unrealistic. And that same goalkeeping coach was like, I know this scout in England. Um, like you have a European passport, maybe you should go there. It might not be the highest level, but like you'll get a lot of exposure. And basically, if you go to Europe or anywhere and play, once you have a good amount of experience, you can come back here as a starting goalkeeper, and that's when that rule wouldn't apply to you anymore. Like whether it's in Canada or the US. So that was the advice I got, and I kind of just took it and ran with it, and then that led to the journey in Europe.
Wow, and I mean, what an amazing story about like the whole time of looking for like college scholarship, and just again really shows like that testament. Like, and when I speak with other players too, like whether it be Raf, Tyson, other players like that, it's always that same message: you never give up, right? I mean, like that's such a great story. I mean, obviously you're fighting for your spot. Like you're the fourth, like you're at the one point fourth choice keeper, and then man, having that starting lineup read out to your name, being read out saying, hey, you're the starter. I can only imagine. I mean, that feeling must have been, you must have been elated about that. And then, I think what kind of goes back to that as well is just talking about like, the hardest part sometimes is getting your foot in that door. Like once you get that opportunity, it's about seizing that moment. So once you're able to seize that moment, and again, like 15 games, didn't lose a game, by the way. That's a wow, great, and then 10 clean sheets as well. Like I mean, you really when you had that opportunity, you took it and ran with it. So Jonathan, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that too, because again, that's just an amazing story, and one that I think the audience can really relate here is like you just like if when the times get tough, you just got to get back on the horse and just keep working at it. And again, if you keep working, keep practicing, good things will happen. And I think that's one thing I really like. I really stood out to me there. So thank you again for sharing that example, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't actually shared that story in a long time because I give 'em normally like a shorter description of my university career and just talk about the days at the University of Buffalo because that was really the main thing. But that was such a formative experience there. And yeah, like the way it came about and there was difficult decisions. And the interesting thing is there's actually a female goalkeeper from Winnipeg who's taken a similar route and experienced a lot of success. She just won the national championship in the NAIA, and she was playing at the University of Winnipeg right as the program was folding. So it just goes to show that again, if you're proactive and you're creative and finding opportunities, it's really what you make of it. It's not is it going to be right or is it wrong? It's you who decides that, and finding a way. And yeah, so no, thank you for that. And it just goes to show that there's many different routes to get to your goal.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously too, like again, like oh man, like just talking about the connections there, like with that dang rule, right? I mean, you could have been playing it obviously in the MLS there, but getting some great advice there from that from the goalkeeper coach there. You go explore options in Europe, especially in England there. I know that is one big thing that I guess the one thing I just wanted to clarify though. So like, was going to university, was it always your dream of going pro, or was it like one of those things where during your time playing, you're like, oh, I can actually make this a career?
No, I was clear on that decision from like the age of 10. And again, like you have this naive optimism and playing in Europe, I saw those players like me going into university at 18. I saw those players coming into the first team in some of the different places I played in Europe, and they have this naive optimism to them. And that is such a powerful state. And coaches are really good sometimes and bad at like using like facilitating that state that they're in, and that's where you see these incredible young players playing and doing so well. So that season that I described, like I seized it, but I also didn't really know, like I wasn't afraid of anything because I didn't experience any success and at up to that point at that level, um, and wasn't really thinking about what can go wrong. And it was just like really just in the moment. As you get older and you start considering more and like the mentality of wanting to plan ahead and kind of see the career that you want to have, that's where it becomes more tricky and difficult. So I would have loved for those early years where it was just like raw and you just go and there's no thinking about the next game. It's just right now and doing everything. Um, at a professional level because it would have been cool to see where I could have took that. But then at the same time, I look at some of those goalkeepers that I were coming in when they were 17, 18 into first teams. I was nowhere near that level when I was that age. So like I also probably needed that development. So to answer your question, I went to university with the clear goal of using that to become a professional. While I was there, I developed the interest of I actually really like studying. I really like academics. Like I really enjoy this setting of being in a university. So it also sparked an interest while I was there too, that I kind of kept going throughout my career as a professional.
Absolutely. And I think that's also a really great thing that to see, right? Because again, having that education also helps you out just in case, not everything sometimes for a lot of players too. And like sometimes going professional doesn't always work out. So it's always good to have a education to fall back on. Do have to ask though, okay, I'm going to guess your area of study. You may give me a little bit of a hint before, but was it sports science?
So it should have been, but because I was only there for soccer, I took like the degree, the most general degree that would kind of just offer opportunities later in life. So I took business, and that was definitely influenced from my family. So I actually studied marketing there, but took some psych classes and some sports science classes. I was super interested in it, but was kind of told that being a student athlete, those um, academic routes are more difficult. So that's maybe a little bit of a regret, well, not really a regret because I really enjoyed my business degree, but I studied sports science later while I was a professional at the graduate level doing my master's.
Ah, fair. Okay, okay. It's funny because actually I got a business degree as well. I actually wanted to go to be a computer programmer and then took a business course and I was like, this will work out for me. So
Yeah,
hey,
yeah, similar.
I love that. Love that. So, you finished your career there in college, obviously, like, just taking the ball and running it, like we talked about, getting some good connections. But then you go into Europe. I mean, having that European passport obviously does help out a lot, especially over there. But like, can you just kind of take me through that journey of like, you're going to the lower, like, the kind of the semi-professional leagues there in England, going through club to club. Like, can you just talk me through the whole process? Like, I mean, that must have been a whirlwind going to a whole new country, trying to find a club. I mean, that must have been a lot to take in.
Oh, I just got goosebumps thinking back to it because one of the most incredible periods of my life, also the hardest period of my life, like to go together. And so yeah, there was this amazing man called Stuart Bully. Both his sons played in the U.S. in the university system. He was a retired police officer, always worked as a scout for many of the teams. He lived in the south of England. So there's actually not many professional teams around there, right? You had the well-known ones are Plymouth, Exeter, Torquay United, um, and am I missing one? Yeovil Town is a little bit. Anyways, there's not that many around there. Those are the three main ones. And he basically said, "Yeah, like you're a great goalkeeper. I can see you having a good career here. There's a team in that region, a semi-pro team that just got like a lot of investment by like a rich owner. They're looking to put together a good team and get promoted." He goes, I'd love to present you to them, and I can get you in because it would be part time. He goes, I could then expose you to like different professional teams there, maybe get you in training with them, and let's see what we can do. So like that was it. And there was like a couple phone calls, and it's like, yeah, Facebook messages, and it's like, okay, yeah, let's go for it. So I was in Russia with the Canadian university team, Canadian national the FISU games. So we went to in Kazan, Russia, and that was a great experience. And then from there, I went straight to England. And getting there, and it was not what I was expecting at all. Like I was expecting England to be like rainy. I watched the movie Goal, right? Like in Newcastle, like that was my image of like what England was gonna be. Um, and go down to the south and it was like it looked like I was in like Spain or France. Like it was beautiful, like sunny beaches, like beautiful beaches. And it was he lived in like this little beach town called Westward Ho. And I was sleeping on a sofa. And in a way I was vicariously living out that movie Goal. Like very similar. Like in the you're going and you're staying with him and then you wake up in the morning and you're going for a run and you're trying to train in these like makeshift conditions of like training, fields and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, he was exactly what he described was exactly how it went. Um, he got me in with that team, and it wasn't glamorous at all. Like, nice little stadium, but, like, you're training basically, like, on a park pitch twice a week. Really good players, but, like, everybody turning up in their own kit, like, very like, nowhere near the level of professionalism as it was in the NCAA. The balls were, like, inconsistent, like, it really looked like Sunday league in a way, but it was semi-pro. It was what they call, like, the Evo Stick League, non-league, right? So, that was actually step 8, I think it was, yeah, step 8, if you go from, like, Premier League down, okay? So, it was, like, that would have been the Southern Premier League, like, tier 2, then there would have been Southern Premier League tier 1, then it was Conference South,
Yeah.
then the National Conference, then League 2. Um, so, yeah, played my first friendly with them and, like, did really well, and, like, I still wasn't signed, I still had to, like, show myself, but I remember telling Stu, I was like, "Yeah, this is not gonna take very long, like, this, level seems pretty easy. Like, if I just gotta do my thing here for a few games and move up, like, this is gonna go well." Then the goalkeeping coach that came in to train us had a connection with Torquay United, who was in League 2 at the time, and he connected me with the goalkeeping coaches there, and they always were looking for, like, an extra goalkeeper for training because the starting goalkeeper would only train at a certain rate and wouldn't wanna take shots at the end, so I went in there as, like, a trainee goalkeeper. Did really well. They had 3 keepers. Right away, I recognized I'm better than their 3rd keeper. So I was like, "Okay, let me push for this, and I'm gonna take his spot." So it goes on, and I start with, go through the preseason with Tiverton Town, which was the semi-pro club that I was playing for, and then training with Torquay United. And then I started to get frustrated with the conditions at Tiverton. Like, it was just lacking professionalism. And then I was going to a League Two club that was the dream. Like, that was a professional club. Like, that was like you train in the morning and then you have lunch after, and then you play football, tennis, and hang out in the gym. And it's just like, that's what I dreamt of.
Yeah.
And I rather have been there as a third keeper than be like the starting goalkeeper for the semi-pro club that didn't really feel like professional to me. Um, and then the league started, and it was a totally different pace. It was like, you know, 50% faster than those preseason games. And that's when the rain came in. That's when, like, the conditions became tough. It was like literally the first game of the season, English football started. Before that, it was like you're on a preseason training camp. Yeah, in the south of France. Like, that's what it felt like playing, those games, those little coastal towns. Uh, and that's where, like, I started to get a little bit of a wake up call and start to feel the pressure, like, because I was signed, I was getting paid a decent salary for that league. It was £200 a week. You get a clean check for £800 a month. Um, and uh and yeah, like, there was pressure on me to perform, and there was an expectation, and there wasn't much provided in terms of support. Like, we weren't watching video, there was no scouting plan, like, yeah, no information. I didn't even know the name of the team that we are going to play. You just kind of show up, and there was a crowd. Like, these small little stadiums would fill in, and they're right on top of you, and they're chirping you, they're getting in your head. Like, it was the best education I could have got, but I just wasn't prepared for what that was at the time. So didn't make the most of that experience there. Had some really good games, played in front of, like, a couple thousand fans, like, in these small little local derbies, um, and was just loving the training with the professional club, but wasn't really enjoying the playing, and the pressure just became a little bit too much. Ended up pulling my quad, tried to come back too quick, ended up rupturing my quad. Then by the time I came back from that, I was struggling to kick, and in that league, kicking into a good area was such an important part for the goalkeeper. Like, it was such an important role, and the coach was getting on to me about it. And anyways, in the end, I decided to break my contract there, and I told him I was going back to Canada, and I basically told him I was gonna stop playing and use my education and get my quad right, and he's like, "Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do." But I used the same contact and found an opportunity in the Northern League. So the Northern Premier League in Nottingham, where the idea was, fresh start. Now you know what to expect. And you go there and there's like 100 teams within a 2-hour drive. Like, there's so many professional teams there. So there's a lot more visibility and basically do the exact same thing that I was doing there. And also the challenge with Torquay was like, I said to them, I go, I think I'm better than your third keeper. Like, is there an opportunity for me here? And they're just like, no, he's under contract. Like, in what world do you just, like, cut a third goalkeeper because a Canadian keeper comes in and is just a little bit more determined in training? Like, it wasn't that he was bad. He was just being the third keeper in his way. And I was there, like, going for everything. And I thought that I could bring more. So then I also understood that, and using the economics terms from my undergrad of barriers of entry. There were clear barriers of entry that, like, I didn't consider. Like, I thought if you were good, they would just take you. But there's constraints and there's things to work around. So that kind of explained the move there. took a 50% salary cut. So went from 200 pounds a week to 100 pounds a week. Luckily, they put me with like a billet family that I became very close friends with. And that was like an incredible relationship. Um, and yeah, got thrown in, didn't even practice with the team. Like first game, it was an away game. The kit man picked me up. We got stuck in traffic. Had to go out with like no warm up and start playing right away. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna reinvent myself, start doing my thing, get the first pass back, take it onto my left foot, and I go to play like a lofted ball to my left back, and my left leg was just like dead. It was asleep. It was like because from the car ride, it just wasn't activated, and I caught the ground, completely missed it. The ball went straight to the other team, and they nearly scored from it. And then, anyways, it was just like a rough game. I wasn't prepared to deal with like recovering from mistakes and the pressure that comes from that at that time. So I played like 2 more games and didn't go great. I actually got dropped, and I was like, "Wow." So I made this move, thought I would reinvent myself, and now I got dropped. I was so close to just packing it in. It was around Christmas time. I didn't wanna miss Christmas with my family. I had a girlfriend in the US at the time that was, like, we had discussions about the life that we could have. So I was so close to going back, and then somebody told me, they said, "Just give it a little bit more of a chance. Just stay for Christmas." Christmas in England with football is like a magical period. See how that plays out. Um, and it turned out the coach was like, "Yeah, like we're gonna give you another chance. You're gonna go back in." And he's just like go for it. Like, just don't care if you make a mistake. Like, I want you to come for the ball. Because the problem was I wasn't going for crosses, right? So it's like, all right, so I gave it a chance, played the Boxing Day game, and started going for it. And we had a good game and we won. And he's like, excellent. He goes, now I want you to start catching it. He goes, I don't care if you drop it, start catching it. That same night after that game, the family I was staying with, one of the guys, took me to watch Nottingham Forest play at the City Ground. It was a nighttime game, and I saw Carl Darlow in that stadium. He was like the same age as me, and just being dominant, coming for crosses, like just being fearless with a huge crowd behind him. And I was just like, that was the level I was aspiring to. And I was like, why am I just not doing that? Like, why am I not going for it? And then from there, I just started going for it and going for it, and then really started to play well. And then exactly what the intent was of just gaining exposure to the professional clubs there. I was writing letters to every single club. Um, Played one game against FC United, and there's a video of it. Because their FC United is like it's an interesting story. It's a breakout team from Manchester United. It's a fan-owned club. So we're playing them in a cup, and one of their fans was like filming like a documentary from behind the goal. So to see them score, but I was having such a good game that I was having incredible saves and incredible actions that were all recorded that I was able to make a video from. That gained a little bit of exposure, got put in the Nottingham Post, and then I started getting calls from like Oxford United, and I went there, and 1 week turned into 2. Then I got a call from Birmingham City. Then I got a call from Mansfield, uh, Oldham Athletic, Wimbledon. Then I got a call from St. Mirren in Scotland that like, no, like we need a keeper now. Like, can you come? So I was going to all these clubs on trial for like next season, and then St. Mirren came and they're like, "We need a keeper now. Like our second keeper just got injured. Our third keeper is the second one. We need or 2 of their keepers got injured. Their third keeper was playing. I would have gone in to be the second goalkeeper, go up there on trial against 2 other keepers, do really well. Coach says, "Yeah, we're gonna sign you." Take the picture with the shirt. They show me the apartment, everything. And then I had to go back to the office to sign some paperwork. So he's like, "Yeah, just wait here. We're just sorting out your registration." And then like he came back in, asked a couple questions. He goes, "What was the name of the other club you played for?" It's like Tiverton Town. He goes, "Did you have a contract there?" I go, "I think so." And he goes back in, and something didn't feel right.
Mhm.
In the end, in Scotland, you can only play for 2 clubs in 1 season. They don't have that emergency loan system like they do in England, where you can play for more than 2 clubs in 1 season. So even though I was on a non-contract with Carlton Town in the Northern League, because of that contract with Tiverton in the Southern League, I couldn't sign another one, and there I had to be on a contract. So it fell through. And they felt really bad. It was a Friday. I was supposed to travel with the team to Inverness the next day to be on the bench. And they're like, you can still come with the team and watch the game. And I was just like, I called my coach, and he's just like, well, like, I'm sorry this happened, but like, we need you. Like, can you come back? And I was getting paid per game that I played there. So took the train back 5 hours back to Nottingham, went and played an away game. And then that got a little bit more attention. And that led to some more trials. So anyways, long story short, I had an incredible run of like playing, going to all these different professional clubs, getting back close to signing in the Scottish Premier League, it falling through. And then the longer that went on, the more difficult it started to become, because then it started to be like, well, why is nobody signing him, right? And it's like he's showing well, and one goalkeeping coach would pass on to the next, like, yeah, we like him, like we're considering for next year, but nobody was pulling the trigger on it.
Mm.
And the problem was I was like 23 at the time, but I was at the development stage of an 18-year-old goalkeeper that would be coming in as a development goalkeeper. So it's like, why are we going to give this guy a higher salary? And like, we got to think about his living condition because he's older, when we can sign somebody out of an academy who still lives at home, who we can give a lower salary. And if anything happens to the first keeper, we can just loan somebody in. So that was the challenge and like the barrier to getting into the football league. Um, then I ended up dislocating my shoulder playing in the Conference North. So I was like, that was going to be my next step up.
Yeah.
And then I came back to Canada, got it right, and then went back and without a club, like flew back to England. And then the agent I was working with was like, yeah, Chester need a goalkeeper. So you're going to go on trial there tomorrow. Took the train up to Chester, did one training. It's like, yeah, sign me. And then I was on the bench the next day. And that was my first professional contract. And I basically was a second keeper there the whole year, and then made my debut in the last game of the season in the second half.
Wow. Just a journey in a like that's a journey there in England. Again, a lot of ups and downs, and again, it's a lot of like one of those things where it's like it's unfortunate that some of those registration rules. Like I feel like a lot of times I've heard that you're gonna get signed, and it's at the last second something happens. But again, it kind of goes to show again that whole aspect of like never giving up and pursuing through and not giving and just keeping at it. It's actually funny. So I don't know if you're into video games at all, Jonathan, but like, you ever hear the game Football Manager at all?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I also play Football Manager on Twitch, and a lot of my viewers are from the UK, and they love like non-league football. Like a lot of them are like Huddersfield Town fans, Blackpool, like all those things. And I've been exposed more to getting to know these getting to know these viewers and get to watch a lot more of these games. Passionate fans. Oh my days. Like it's like a religion out there. And I get to see some of those games, but like you said, that's an amazing learning opportunity because again, English fans have great banter, especially from the chants. And I'm guaranteeing you probably if you make a mistake, if you're especially in an away ground, they're gonna let you know about it.
Yeah, especially if like the one that would get me all the time was like they would say like if you flapped at it, like if you went for a cross and just tried to break it up, they're like, "Oh, he's flapped at it," and they would start like calling you a flappy goalkeeper, and that one got to me for some reason. That one really, but yeah, 100%. And like those are still the clubs you mentioned are still like football league clubs, like Championship, League One. I'm talking even lower than that, but like playing in the National League, like going to Grimsby Town, Wrexham was in the league at the time. That was our big rivalry. Gateshead, like there's some of those London clubs, and you'd go to like Aldershot, right? Like some of these teams that like it's in the fifth tier, but a stadium with like 10,000 fans in it, and it's like,
Yeah.
and like seasoned pros playing in this league, but some of them are still only part time, and they're like plumbers or painters in the week. It's just such an unbelievable football culture. And the coolest thing is on a Saturday, you're all traveling on like the same highway to like move to go to these different games. And you see the team buses and you pass the stadiums and you see the fans filling in. It's just like a Saturday in England is all about football. Everybody plays at 3 o'clock, more or less, right? In these leagues. And then they all like go out in the evening and then they're in the pubs and they're talking about it. And it's just like, it was an amazing culture. And I was like, I could stay here the rest of my life. But it ended up hitting a point where kind of got a little bit burnt out from it.
Yeah.
And it was like pushing, pushing, pushing. And it was just like trying to rise against this big force of all these players dropping from the higher leagues.
Mhm.
And it came to a point where I was like, yeah, like I need to change.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think one of the big thing I want to talk on too is like, you got that great experience playing, especially in England. You get to offset that big opportunity at Chester there, but like you also had spent time in Finland, so in Scandinavia there, and I know that you spent some 2 seasons there with TPS. Like, can you kind of talk about how that whole move worked out? And I mean, if I'm not mistaken, if I think I've heard in your prior stories about you is that you played that team you also had shared a stadium with a rival. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Intertoto. Yeah. So yeah, that was so actually same process of like writing letters to clubs. I did the same thing. Sent them to all these different clubs, one of them being TPS, but I got an answer from HIFK Helsinki, HIFK. The coach was named Jani Hankavara. He's now the coach of Djurgården in Sweden, in Stockholm, top league in Stockholm. So I write these letters and I put them like in a package, right? And send it like cover letter, like I learned in business school, and send it by mail because everyone's getting emails. So then they would physically have it. And the idea was because somebody took the time to do that, they wouldn't just throw it in the garbage. They kind of kept it there. So supposedly he told me that he kind of had it on his desk and didn't answer. And he comes back in from a game and his goalkeeper made a mistake. And he's like a little bit frustrated. He goes, "Hey, we really use a new goalkeeper." They just looked at his desk, and at the corner there was a cover letter, a CV with photos, a USB stick with video clips on it. And he's just like, he plugged it in and he had a look and he sees me in England coming for crosses and being dominant. And he's like, that's what we need here. So he just texted me on WhatsApp and said, hey, can you come here? Like, can you come here on Saturday? We'd like to have a look at you. We have an international break. We'd like to see you train for a few days and we have a friendly against AIK Stockholm. Um, we'd like to see you in that and then make a decision. And I was just like, I'll be there. No questions asked. He thought I was coming from England. I was in Canada. Pack my bags, one-way ticket, go there. And like, I was like I was like, yes, like perfect. This came in. Go there and like do all right the first day. That we're super jet lagged. Also, it's the summer. 3 in the morning, the sun is shining like it is now, like in my eyes. So like wasn't sleeping well. And it was the first time I was playing in a country where the language wasn't English. So I didn't understand some of the instructions. And then in one of the small sided games, they were rotating the keeper, switched around. And I guess must have just lost my orientation. And the game starts. It's like, perfect. I'll punch it in, break the line right to the number 6. Ended up passing it. The number 6 was the striker of the other team. Pass it to them. And then he came and I was like, thought he was going to play it back to me, but he scores. And he starts celebrating. The coach is like, yeah, 1-0. And the players start swearing at me and finish. And they're like, what the F are you doing? And
Mm.
this, not. And I was like, and then I was trying to recover from that. And anyways, the trial kind of just spiraled from there.
Yeah.
It didn't go very well. Fought my way back and like ended up doing all right. And I was like, hey, I'll put things right in the game. And then the day before the game, the coach brings me in and goes, yeah, the president said like he wants to have a look at another keeper. He's on his way in now and he's playing the game tomorrow. So thanks for coming. It was like, uh, I was like, "Ah, man." I was like, anyways, really nice guy. Explaining to my situation, I was like, look, I booked a one-way ticket. I was pretty confident that things would work out here. And similar to England, like there's something about when you just go there and you show up, you can kind of make things happen.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not ready to go home yet. Like, is there anyone else that you can kind of put me onto? And he goes, well, I know one coach. He's in the second tier in Finland, who's coaching there, like, and he played for Chester. You guys played for the same club. So let me call him. And we called him and the coach was like, yeah, like love to meet him, bring him down. Like, can't sign him, but we could use another keeper from training. We can get him in an apartment with one of the guys. So I went there and like trained with them for a couple weeks. And then he got signed by Inter Turku to be the assistant coach. And and he brought me there. So I was staying in his house and he goes, yeah, like come in, like I'll get you a trial with them. So I was on trial with them and I was doing really well. And they're like, I was having maybe one of the best trial periods ever, loving the city, like beautiful city. And like Inter Turku was so well funded at the time. Each player was driving a Volvo. Like the lunch after training was incredible. The stadium was beautiful. The training, like everything was like, I was like, this is incredible. Like, I can sign a contract here for the rest of my life. Like this is unbelievable. And I was loving it so much. But the same thing, it kind of just kept going another week, another week. And they were waiting to see how things were working out with their first goalkeeper.
Mhm.
And then I got an opportunity to go to Sweden in the third tier in Division 1. And they called me and they're like, yeah, like we need you to come in and play like now. So I brought it to the coach and the coach is like, go, like, look, like you've been doing well, but reality is we might sign you as like a second keeper. If you have a chance to play there, go. So I went there with like disappointments
Yeah.
that it didn't work out in Intertoto. But then I got there and was super excited and had maybe one of the best experiences. It was only like 3 or 4 months, small little town in Sweden. I was living on my own apartment, but we're in the same complex with like an American guy, a Swedish guy, and a guy from Trinidad and Tobago that played in the US. And the 4 of us just did everything together. We'd ride our bikes to training. We'd play foot volley in the little beach volleyball court right by the sea. We'd play games. We'd go out to the pub out. Like we had such a good time, like cooking dinner together every night and played really well. Ended up saving the team from relegation on the last day of the season. So like it was a big feat. We partied hard after that.
Yeah.
And then went back to Canada. Was like ready to explore what was next. And then the goalkeeper, the first goalkeeper that I was putting pressure on in Intertoto
Mhm.
was retiring. And TPS called him and goes, well, why don't you come to us, like, and play with us? And he goes, no, like, I'm done. But this keeper came on trial with us and he was incredible. Like, you guys should have a look at him. And like, yeah, like, we saw him a little bit. They looked at my clips and they saw, like, me coming for crosses and they just missed out on promotion. And the main thing they needed was a keeper just defending the box, coming for crosses and being brave. And they're just kind of like, yeah, this is kind of what we need. So they called me and they presented the contract, but it came with a little trial period at first. So like, come and they framed it as a medical, but really was like, we want to make sure you are who we think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and went there and did well, and they're like, yeah, okay, like we're gonna sign you. And then yeah, that was the start with TPS, and that was an incredible experience. Like really historic club, huge fan base, really good history. Like they played in Champions League against Inter Milan and at the San Siro like later. So like they were really trying to get back to that. Tough financial times. Um, and yeah, we ended up having an incredible season, won promotion on the last day of the season, got goalkeeper of the year, set a clean sheet record in that league. I think it was 15 clean sheets in 27 games and only conceded 14 goals.
Wow.
Had an incredible defense, also, but like such a good team. And then the next year we played in Veikkausliiga, the top league in Finland, and that was really the start. Like that experience in Sweden, and then with TPS, I played 70 games in a row over 2.5 seasons, and that was really like the start of my professional career. Like that, like really got going.
You know what? That's just amazing too. And I mean, that just sounds like honestly, it sounds like living a dream. And like in a lot of ways, right? Just like how the progression through football. And I know you talked about like the whole thing about with gold and that movie before, and just how you're living out that dream in England. Now you're in Scandinavia there, and you're just doing the whole fly there, and you get that chance to be the professional goalkeeper. To get that whole journey, to finally get to where you were. Like, was there any was there any moment where like I made it type of moment for you? Is there anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, yeah. There's quite a few, and never quite the way that I envisioned it. For sure, I'm a dreamer. Still am today, but for sure I was then too. And I was almost like searching for that moment, and it comes more in times after you experience a lot of moments where there's like, oh, I'm not sure I'm quite cut out for this, or it looks like it's just gonna come away from you. And then it's like overcoming all of those, and then having an achievement. Definitely like the promotion and like getting that done. Like there was so much pressure on that. It was a huge game. Actually made a little bit. I had the best game of my life probably, but also made a mistake on the goal that made us go 1-0 down.
Mm.
And then after that, I just like blacked out and just started going for everything and being like super aggressive and taking a lot of risk. And like we ended up coming back in the game. So it was like my best game ever, but like also like a not a high profile mistake. I was gonna scoop a ball, basically like a hard shot. It bounces a little bit off me. And I was concerned about it bouncing off my chest and giving a rebound. There's a striker right in front of me.
Yeah.
So I kind of like parried it, like shoveled it away. And my defender, my defender froze because he thought I was gonna catch it. And then somebody came from behind him and put it in. And so it wasn't like a huge mistake, but in a game like that, it was costly.
Yeah.
And so anyways, but after that, I remember like I had food poisoning the days before, so I didn't eat anything. And then we win and we're celebrating. So it's so much adrenaline and kind of like the release. Just start pouring Heineken down your throat, like and we're celebrating. And then everybody was at the nightclub, and I remember like just feeling so sick that I ended up going home and just like sat on my sofa, and I was just like, oh, like that was incredible. Like then I felt like I made it, and then I was thinking about like what's next. Like I did that, won a trophy, got promotion. I'm gonna be at the award ceremony in like a week's time. We're gonna be playing in the top league next year. My new contract, like I just signed my new contract. Um, yeah, so that was definitely one of those moments. Uh, Signing for IK Sirius in Allsvenskan in the top league in Sweden. That was another one. Playing against Malmo. Playing against some big, making my Allsvenskan debut there. What was cool about my Allsvenskan debut was against Mjölby, who won the league this year, away to them. And I remember after that game, there, Canucks Abroad, that Twitter page.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were always like very supportive and sharing my stuff. And I remember like waiting for the time that like they would say like Allsvenskan debut, and that got shared. And I remember Craig Forrest actually like liked that or retweeted it, and then followed me on Twitter. And I was like, no way, cool. 'Cause that was a goalkeeper I looked up to, and I was like, caught his attention. And there was only at the time there was only like 5 players, like 5 Canadians that ever played in Allsvenskan, and all of them were big players for the national team. They all played for the national team. So I was like, I'm gonna get a national team call. Like, so that was kind of feeling like it was coming. It didn't. Um, but yeah, like there was many of those like small moments like that over time, that felt like that. And even though it was a long career, because it took a while to get going, and because I got going a little bit later, it also went by quick. Like those from 2016 to 2026. So it was 12 years, but really like the 10 years where I had kind of all the games and like the seasons at a higher level, that went by pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And I mean, just what a journey in itself, right? Like a lot of ups, like, a lot of ups and downs, but you're still able to get to where you were and become living out the dream as being a professional goalkeeper, right? And I mean, geez, like I can only imagine just like the experiences and just all the memories that you have. And I mean, I guarantee you probably have some stories you probably can't share on the podcast, obviously. But I guess just kind of talking about, especially from your time in Sweden and Finland there, is there any like proud moment that really kind of stands out to you? Is there any like thing kind of like that you like kind of wrap up on there about that journey?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So after the year in TPS, I we ended up getting relegated on the last, so I experienced both. We got promoted on the last game of the season.
Mm.
And then the next season we fought really hard. We did the best we could. We ended up getting in the relegation playoff, so we had a chance to like fight for our survival. Drew the first game away 0-0, and then drew the second game at home 1-1, and because of the away goal, we got relegated. And they scored, it was like ended up making a save off a free kick off the crossbar, went to another player, and then he put it in. So it's kind of like a lucky goal that he was just there
Yeah.
right before halftime. And the whole second half, they just parked the bus. So I didn't have anything down. I was just like waiting and watching us, like time ticking on and it looking like it wasn't going to come. And then I remember getting relegated and we were at full stadium and it was just dead quiet. And I remember there was like one fan, like, who was like always like, he was always like cheering me on and stuff like that. And I remember like taking off my shirt and giving it to him and just like walking in and realizing like I'm gonna have to leave, right?
Yeah.
Because I just didn't want to go back down. I wanted to keep progressing. But I loved that club. I loved playing for them. It was an incredible experience. So um after that, it was like, "Hey, what's next?" I wanted to go to Sweden, back to Sweden. Had an opportunity with Gais, where we have 2 Canadian players playing now,
Mm.
um, and went on a week's trial with them, did well. Similar type thing, like, "We're gonna sign you," but it kinda just dragged on, dragged on. They were trying to move another goalkeeper. In the end, it didn't work out. I was supposed to leave to join them on preseason, like, first week of January, and that's when they called, say, "Yeah, sorry, it's not gonna work." And
Mm.
all the teams in Scandinavia had their first keepers at that point. So that's when I looked at the USL. Um, should have, in theory, played for Ottawa because there was an opportunity to go there,
Yeah.
but they were in a good financial state and kind of offered me like a hometown discount
Mm.
contract. And I was like, ah. And then San Antonio was the other team that I spoke to, and they're just like, yeah, like they made it more exciting, gave me a much better contract, and they're like, it was a huge club, and in the USL, it was well known club. So went there with a lot of excitement. Didn't go great. Came up against a keeper that was coming up. He was their second keeper, and he found himself in a great form that season. And we both kind of had a few opportunities. I ended up going with him and sticking with him, and he ended up having a great season. We became close friends, but I just didn't play that much.
Mm.
And that's where I realized I wanted to go back to Europe because there you can play your way to a higher league, right? Like going starting lower and then
Yeah.
going through the promotions. So um, did the same thing. Rode to all these clubs and then in the end, had 2 trials, and both of them were in Allsvenskan. One of them was serious. They wanted to sign me, so I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna do that." So that was a really proud moment, like finding my way to Allsvenskan, but accepted the role as number 2, knowing that if I get the chance, each game is gonna be worth so much. So I played 5 games total, 2 in the cup and 3 in the league. Actually kind of broke in as the number 1 in the end, where I played 2 games in a row and then got injured. I've torn my plantar fascia. So I missed out. I would have ended up playing the last 3 games. So I would have had 3 more games, but at least I could have finished as a number 1,
Yeah.
and it would put me in a better position for the next season.
Mm.
And then they kind of said, "Look, like you did exactly what we wanted. You're exactly what we wanted of a second keeper here. We'd like to keep it going." But I was turning 30, and they also understood that I wanted to play, right? So like, we'll give you a chance if you want to explore something else. Like, give us an answer basically within 2 weeks. Um, and then Dalkurd, the team in the exact same city, playing in the same stadium again. I forgot to mention about Interturku. The derbies against them were unbelievable because I know you asked about that.
Yeah.
So that was 2 times. Anytime there's 2 teams sharing a stadium and they're playing in the same league, those are incredible derbies. So had really good ones against Interturku. Never lost one.
Ooh.
I think we had 5 total and like won 3 and drew 2. So those were really fun. Actually, it was 6. Drew 3 and won 3.
Wow.
Yeah. And anyway, so then joined Dalkurd FF, who were in Allsvenskan, and then were in Superettan, and then got relegated. And the investor put in new money, and they had a project of how they were going to get back to Allsvenskan. And they offered me a 3-year contract that basically like continued
Mm.
as long as we got promoted, and like it was like quite lucrative. And it was like, and so every promotion, there was like a big jump in salary, and it was really cool. And I was like, it was the first time I kind of took a step back, but I saw it with being able to then go forward.
Yeah.
So it's a big risk, and I did it. And it wasn't as straightforward as I thought. Super complex club. Like, talk about passion, most passionate fan base I've ever seen, and they were like spread throughout the whole world because they were like the Kurdish national team, but based in Sweden. There's a documentary on them now that's going around in film festivals. A Canadian
Really?
movie producer made it. Yeah,
Wow.
talks about like the cultural aspect of these like immigrant clubs in Sweden, and they were like the biggest one. So getting promoted with them through the playoffs, knocking out Gais, playing in the legendary stadium in Gothenburg, Gamla Levy, on December 6th in -15 conditions, and getting the job done was maybe one of the proudest moments of my career. Like, that was so good, playing every game of that season and going through really hard times and finding a way to bring this group of like really good players together and become a team. And we were such a team. Like, we felt like an army. Like, it was incredible. That was a really proud moment. And then, yeah, and then playing for Valour too. Like, I always wanted to finish my career in Canada. I
Mhm.
had my eye on the league. I had opportunities to come earlier. Discussions with Valour started like right after the second season. So for the 2020 season, there was a discussion. There was this discussion in 2022, but because there was like other things going in Europe, I was still rising. I was doing my master's in Europe at the time. My wife was doing her master's there. So we kind of waited for the right time. We got married. We were waiting for permanent residency. And then once that came to a conclusion and we were like, okay, now we want to move to Canada. We had the permanent residency. It's like, what options are there in the CPL? There was no openings for a number one. And then Valor called and they go, so we're thinking of trading um, Ryan Yesley, and maybe I shouldn't. Well, that doesn't really matter. I can get the details now because the club doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
They were discussing moving on Ryan Yesley to Ottawa in exchange for Noah Verhoeven, which would then lead an opportunity for me to come in
Mm.
as their number one. And they're like, "Are you interested?" And like, the goal was to go back to Ottawa, right? And they had Nate Ingham there. It was going to be really hard to displace one of the best keepers in the league. So wasn't really, it just wouldn't fit. They wouldn't bring me in to be the second goalkeeper there, right? Nor was I interested in that. So I was just like, yeah, let's do it, right? And came to Winnipeg with like low expectations. And from the moment I arrived, absolutely loved it. Loved the city. It reminded me so much of Buffalo, where I went to university, and I kind of just had like a reconnection to that. Same thing, like playing out of the Bomber Stadium, because in Buffalo we played out of the football stadium there. The cold, like the grittiness of the city, and then the story of the club with the military connection. Like, it's such a great project and story and opportunity for me at the end of my career that I was really excited about. Um, and yeah, so came here, and that was a really proud moment and also really tough. But I was really proud of how we were able to turn it around in the first season that I was here, so 2024,
Yeah.
when it was looking like we were going to be an absolute embarrassment, and then just found a way to come together and be solid. And we were a really good team, like a really good group. Like, we became a team. Like,
Yeah.
um, and that was a really proud moment as well. And then, trying to get into the playoffs on the last day of the season, like giving ourselves a chance, and then playing Calgary, and we ended up scoring. Um, I ended up presenting my thesis the day before at a sports psychology conference here in Winnipeg, and the title of my thesis was "It's a Must Win," and it was talking about the inner game, like that's the must win.
Wow.
And then the next day we were playing a must win game against Calgary, like in our stadium, and a lot of my colleagues, like professors and people, they came and watched it. So even though we lost and came up short there, like, we gave it a really good go. And what sucked was at the end, we ended up finishing last, but we had a run of, I don't know how many games it was, like 12 or 13, 14 games where we were really, really competitive. And I think in the form table, we were like top three in that second half of the season.
Yeah.
So that was actually a really proud moment too. Um, and it was unfortunate, like it didn't come with any recognition or accolades or anything like that, but like internally and as a group, we were really proud of that. And then it was just unfortunate that there was a lot of excitement to build off it, and we just couldn't quite do it. And obviously different complexities and challenges, came up that kind of prevented us from building on it and taking that forward. But that it felt like, okay, there's this really cool club in a really cool city that I really like, and there's, fan base, and we're connecting, and love the organization that we're representing. And it felt like all those pieces were coming together. but then in the background, there was something missing, and you felt it, but you didn't know what it was, and then over time, it kind of revealed itself, and yeah, unfortunate kind of sequence of events.
And I think that's one thing too, just like I know, one thing like, being a Valor fan here for like 6 years, and it's like since its club's inception here is the one thing I always like. I was talking with Patrick about this. I think the biggest thing, the Valor's biggest detriment sometimes, especially in a team like a small like league as it is, like eight teams, is consistency with performances, right? Like, and that in the results. Because I think if you put in a couple like a lot like like a stretch of losses, it can really put you down the table, and it can get you in basically it's hard to come back for that sometimes, right? And I mean, and the thing I've noticed with Valor, especially over the years, is that they always kind of get off to a rough start, but then they build up the performances and then they get good results during the end of the season. It always seems like that's how it always goes. And, I think that's really a testament to like, I think it's just, again, how that group comes together and like you kind of talked about, but like, honestly, Jonathan, like one thing that you really, be watching the performances for you the last 2 years, you brought a lot of like that composure that you kind of talked about and like that just like that, it wasn't like in years past. I'm not saying anything about any like goalkeepers, but sometimes it felt like the defense felt very organized. It felt very more compact as a team. Like I was there. The best game I ever seen of Valor was against Vancouver Whitecaps in Princess Auto Stadium. There, what just absolute performance from the whole team there. But honestly, I was super excited for this next season coming up because it looks like we're honestly on the precipice of something special. Like this team was going to take the next step. Like, I mean, Rocco Romero, we brought back Keon Froze there, Jordan Ferreira. Like, there's a lot of great players, and I'm really good friends with Rafa Heen as well. But it just felt like something different was coming, and it just sucks that we can't see it this season.
Oh man, I know. And I was retiring. Like I made that clear at the beginning of the season. Um, And, like, had I retired after the 2024 season, I think that would have been, like, the even though it didn't come with any championship or anything like that, like, given the way the story unfolded, that would have been, like, the more, like, story ending kind of retirement that I was maybe wanting. Um, but I felt the same thing. There was still work to do. I still felt good. I still feel like I can play now. It's just, life situation and circumstances have taken me to a place where I needed to move on from it. Um, but, uh but yeah, I'm right there with you, and there was a lot of excitement to build off it. We had some really exciting opportunities, like you're right, with the Whitecaps game and the school game, and we had a really good team in preseason. Like we had such a good preseason, and we were kind of coming together. And it's funny because like our coach said it the whole time. He goes, "Hey, like everything's good now, but at some point I'm gonna have to start." So like, he was splitting playing time with everyone.
Yeah.
There was no clear starting 11 yet. He was playing around with different combinations, and everything was working until he had to then decide on one. And the thing that we were missing this year was like the team aspect. Like we didn't come together as a team.
Hmm.
And again, like when the foundation isn't solid, it's difficult for that to transpire. Um, and there was just something in the walls, like in that change room, that was there. We couldn't quite put our finger on it, but many different individuals trying to bring like their approach and um, like lead the team in a way, and individual players trying to bring out the best themselves, and there's so many of those combinations. They need to gel. Like that's what team dynamics is, and none of them fused together. Like they were actually like bumping, and there's a lot of friction within that. And so that made it really challenging, but there was a lot of excitement, and yeah, a lot of disappointment. And even though like even at that, so I think as you were describing, I think the best way to describe Valor, if you want to compare it to a European club, is this is like that relegation club that everyone is proud to support. That was Valor. Like the way it was, the way that the team represented itself, like you said, like rough starts, but then coming together at the end. Those
Mhm.
teams that survive relegation on like the last day of the season, there's a lot of pride in that, right?
Yeah.
Or if they do get relegated and they come back again, like fans really get into that. And that kind of fit the narrative of Valor and what the club was about and what it represented. So the league also didn't allow for that. It was like the best teams get recognized, and that's what you're going for. But the way the team was formed and the kind of like the playing style and like the constraints that we were operating in, it fit the mold of a really good club that was more in the bottom of the league, that was fighting for survival and staying competitive. But that wasn't the league we were playing in, so it never probably fit properly. But yeah, it's disappointing, and I think the city of Winnipeg did the best they could to support the team, and everybody could have done things better. It's unfortunate that it led to this, and hopefully, just like this team came back around after many years of professional soccer missing in Winnipeg. I really hope that it comes back again, and the lessons learned from this can be taken and applied, and a more sustainable club that's set up for like longer term success and sustainability could be set up and become like embedded in the community and culture here in Winnipeg.
Two-part question on that. I'd love to hear that as well, because again, passionate soccer fan here in Winnipeg. It's just I want to have a team that I can go to support, right? Especially like you said going just on a night to go watch some soccer, and especially that is something I miss here, especially. And I guess my two questions here is that first off, I guess for your opinion, if a new team was to come back into Winnipeg in the future, what would be like the most important thing that is needed for it to succeed here, in your opinion?
Local presence.
Local presence.
Local presence, like local players, local players, maybe even local coach. Like there's a lot of talent here in Winnipeg that lack exposure, opportunity, also lack a competitive environment. So just you building it from the bottom up, right? Of in the community, like with young players coming through, and then seasoned professionals to kind of set the example, and a well-structured, organized club that can support the development that's going to take it. Just won't just come like that, right? It's hard to convince the best players that are playing this league to come to Winnipeg, but the players that come here and embody what the city's about can really make a strong impact over time. You've seen that with all the professional teams here in Winnipeg, right? And all of them have a strong connection to the city, right? And to the community.
Yeah.
And there's individual players or coaches that are from here that or move here and become part of it that are there for a long time. Like that's an important part. Like this city is loyal to that. The thing I love most about this city is it's not a glamorous one. It doesn't have the nicest things, doesn't have like the most exciting things to do, but it's the people that are here that make it their home that really make it special, right? So that's exactly what you need out of a club that's here. It needs to have that home feel, and it's the people within it and around it that make it special. Not trying to make it something bigger than it is and have people come in and kind of, you know, um, like support it in a way with, I don't know the right word for it, but like, um, yeah, I'm not finding the word for it, but you kind of gather what I'm trying to say.
I
Like it
do.
needs to be
I know what you're
embedded
saying.
in the
Yeah.
community, rather than it be like a big club that comes in and people want to pay money to go and watch them and they're looking up to them like superstars. Like that's not the opportunity here, especially with soccer. Like you wouldn't be able to bring an MLS club here right away and fill out the stadium every single day. But there was a PDL team here for many years that was well supported, that was sustainable, that local players are playing through and then going on and people are interested in the story. So like it just goes to show. And then you had Valour that was kind of in the middle of that, that was almost there, but it didn't quite take off. So if you combine those two kind of together and work towards that goal of becoming a bigger club that does have a full stadium, kind of like what the Bombers were able to do over a 100-year period that they've been around, right? Or longer or shorter, I'm not exactly sure, but that's the way to do it.
Absolutely. And I mean, this like you kind of talked about like local connection. I think, and again, this is just me being hopeful too. Like, I think that was the biggest thing I've heard from like the community here is just like that local connection with the club. I think that was the biggest thing like that was missing. I think for a little bit of period of time. I know COVID obviously was a big thing and stuff like that, but you see the fans of Jets games, Bomber games. There's definitely a passionate crowd here, and definitely when we're fully involved in support it, you can definitely see the fans come out in droves. I mean, like you said too, with the players. Two players just taking the MLS, the university draft there. I actually did a podcast with Nico Nadeau as well. The player signed a development contract with Valor. Joseph Green from Manitoba here as well. He's taking the first round too. There's definitely talent here, and you know what? I think it's something that I personally do believe that the professional soccer here in Winnipeg is viable and can thrive here. I think it just has to be in the right conditions, and I think it has to be a longer term commitment just to make sure they can thrive over time. Because again, it's not going to be a success overnight.
100%, 100%. And I don't even think the people here like demand that. They just want something that represents them, that they can be proud of, that they can support, and is a reflection of this city and the people within this city. Those are two great examples. Both of them were training with us, and really good kids. And yeah, like I took a liking to them and really happy to see them go to university and yeah, experience success so quickly and get drafted. But there's many examples of that. So Yeah, 100% agree.
Well, Jonathan, I just want to say thank you again for so much for touching your time on from Valor and just just the whole 2 years of being with the club. And the one thing I just wanted to say before we kind of move on to your next chapter here with retirements and then what you got going on now is that the one thing I really want to to really kind of highlight to the audience here and just for my time and watching you play. And I'm coming from a goalkeeper, and again, you can agree with this assessment or not. Again, up to you. You're obviously the professional and the everything. But the one thing that I found was like one of your greatest strengths, Jonathan, was how you were able to like basically your positioning especially was on another level. I feel like because every time I see you play, like you would always be in the right spot to save shots, also coming off the line. But I felt like you not only are you great at like reflexes and diving, but I feel like what really stood you out from the rest of the keepers I found, in my opinion, was your positioning. Like you knew where exactly the ball was going to go, and every time the player took a shot, you're always in the right position all the time. And as a goalie myself, I'm like, this guy knows where to be. And that's like reminiscent of like, I just think of like Gianluigi Buffon, just because of like how he was able to position himself. And but like the art of being a great goalkeeper is making it look easy. You know what I mean? You got to make it look easy, not too hard. You don't like if your goalie's always overstretching himself and always die. Like the art of a goalkeeper is making it look easy. That's what Pedro always taught me. And I felt like when I watched you play, you're the personification of that. And I just wanted to say that is like for me observing it, you could agree with that assessment or not, but just wanted to say that I felt like that was something that was a really great part of your game.
Keith, what a compliment. Man, I appreciate that. You're making me want to suit up and go play again. Because it took a long time to develop that and get there. And you asked about like problem that itself, like the process of my game and where I was able to get it to. I have a lot of pride in that. Um, and I went through a period where the game changed, right? Like it went from those seasons that I was describing from 2016 to 2018 to 2019 in 2020 or 2021 is when they brought in the rule that the center backs should come into the box and on a goal kick and you start to play out of the back, right?
Mhm.
I was close to 30 at that age and had to make that transition. So I spent a lot of my time developing distribution, kicking into good areas, positioning, coming for crosses, the getting into the right position for those close range reflex saves and like getting comfort in that really came in my time here in Valor, and I was really proud of that. And even this year, it was a difficult season with like kind of start and stop and tough injuries, but like the games that I play, I actually felt really, really good. Had some great saves. So I have a video from every single season except for this one because it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth because I had two really bad injuries that like I was they were tough. So I have all the clips. At some point I will. But I remember some of the early games, like some of the best saves of my career I made like in this season. Patrick DeStefani was a huge help with that. Like we found like a connection on that. Like he had something and I had something. We brought it together and that came. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. It means a lot from another goalkeeper to be able to recognize that. I hope that to other keepers in the city, there's a lot of good up and coming keepers. There was one specifically that was like behind my goal all season, like both seasons as a ball boy. Like he asked to be there to watch me. And it's cool to see him. And there's another keeper that I work with that also, and like I can see myself in them. The same. So you saying that all I wanted to do was try and be Buffon, but in my own way. So getting that compliment is huge. I really appreciate that. And yeah, a lot of time went into that, and like that process of developing is probably the thing that I'm most proud about.
Absolutely. And I mean, just thank you so much for speaking on that too. And I mean, those ball boys probably sure got to learn a lot from you, right? Because again, they're the best seat in the house. Get to learn from yourself how they can apply that. And honestly, it makes themselves as better keepers, honestly. And that's the way sometimes you to get better is watching other players and how they play and taking what they do and applying it to your game. So
100%.
absolutely. So, Jonathan, I know, honestly, I feel like me and you could talk for hours just based on like on soccer and just your career and everything. But
Yeah.
you know what? Like we're coming short on time here, but I wanted to also give us proper time to post retirement and what you got going on now. But obviously you said from the start of the season you wanted to retire. You made that very clear. Was it like with some players? Sometimes it's hard to give it up. Like I mean, that's been something you've been doing your whole life. It's something you worked your whole life toward. Was that something that it was hard to come to terms with, or was it like a pretty easy transition? Like, how's that whole process been for you?
So I'll try and give the backstory of this briefly, but the all or nothing approach that we were brought up here in North America is like you got to give everything. It's got to be the only thing. From what I know now and what I experience is not sustainable and it's not the most effective. We saw it in the Olympics just now, like you end up putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and that's going to show up in really meaningful moments that mean a lot to you, and it's going to be difficult to bring your best the best of yourself in those moments. So actually having a plan B is like a really effective thing to do. Um, and that was great because it gave me another side of my identity that, like the studying, and I was really into sports psychology, and I was studying this and getting to apply it on myself and apply it with my team. And you're learning it like in a theory setting, and then you get to go into the live laboratory that nobody in that field gets exposure to, but you're living in it. Like I said, presenting my thesis one day in an academic conference, and the next day being on the field in a must-win game. So that was really, really cool, and it was great. But at the same time, it was pulling me, like as that was coming to a completion, and I was positioned to start working full time in the field as a mental performance consultant in sports psychology. um, I was excited to get it going. At the same time, I turned 34 this year. We just had our first child. We want to, it's a great league. You actually, it supports a really good lifestyle, but when you're young. As you get older, it becomes more difficult, right? And living in Canada is expensive. You need to think more ahead. So all these things were kind of playing a part, and I was ready to and excited to move on to that phase of life and start to get more settled and develop more stability with my family. So the other thing was, as a professional in developing that process, it didn't come with ease. It was like effortful. It was very intentional. It was very deliberate. Like lots of hours on the field, in the gym, studying, watching film on the computer, breaking down my game, discussions with the goalkeeping coach, with the coach. Like it was very effortful. And with the demands I have now of a little daughter who, when she wakes up, she's in your face and she's ready to get going right away. And then when you get home, you have no other choice but every moment that she's awake to be with her and interact with her. I'm not sure I could have brought that same commitment to it. So as much as I miss it, and I know I can still do it, and there's still parts of my game that I developed last season that I would love to put forward now, and I don't have that opportunity. Um, it is tough, but it does feel right, and it is a completely different lifestyle. So I'm doing my private practice work as as a mental performance consultant in sports psychology. I'm working with the Manitoba Soccer Association and their different high performance programs, specifically the regional Excel programs in the morning. That's 3 mornings a week from 6:15 till 7:45 in the morning. So it's bright and early. Wow. So I'm leaving the house at like 5:45. And then during the day, I'm working with the Royal Canadian Air Force as a mental performance specialist. So I'm supporting the 402 Squadron here in Winnipeg at the 17 Wing Base. And then the 3 CFFTS, which is the Canadian Forest Flight Training School.
Yeah.
Yeah, military is all about acronyms, so you gotta go through them. So basically the pilot school there, and that's been really rewarding and really enjoyable. And then I'm working with some individual athletes, at the youth level and professional level as well. And then actually a local volleyball team here that's quite good, competitive, reigning national champions. So there's lots of work and it's really busy. And basically, I'm leaving at 5:45 and coming home at 5:45. So it's been a change in lifestyle, and I'm enjoying it, but for sure missing like the schedule of being a professional soccer player and the social aspect of being with your teammates and speaking with the coaches and all that. So it's been a change. It's been enjoyable, but yeah, I'm adapting. To answer your question, I am adapting, but I am missing it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, it sounds like you got a lot going on. Not only are you playing your like, your education and like your again, like you kind of said, to the no youth players, soccer, but you're also playing it to the military, other even volleyball, other sports, right? It sounds like it's a very filling passion for you and also a job. And obviously congratulations on being a father as well. Fatherhood must be a whole whirlwind of emotion. So congratulations to you and your wife. I mean, that's always I heard that's the hardest job in the world is being a parent. So it's great to see that. And you know what? I think just before we kind of end it here, I have two last questions. But I guess so far with like especially with your new area of that you're working in now, for development of players, especially from the mental aspect, is there any like challenges that you kind of see that you have to help players like get through? I know it's a very broad question,
Yeah.
but like, is there like anything you kind of notice that you're gonna help them develop through?
Yeah, the two things, with the MSA, we're working with the Canadian Soccer Federation's mental performance framework. So
Mm.
I'm working with them and implementing it in regionally here or provincially into the program. But the two things that we highlight is, as you move up the leagues and you get to a higher level where the margins between players become so small, it really comes down to your ability to direct your attention and manage your internal states. So like those are two broad concepts, but having the ability to develop your awareness of knowing where to apply your attention when it needs to be there, and continuously being able to bring it back and lock it in, as well as regulating the internal state, whether you need to get yourself going more or bring yourself down. Those are like the two things that are going to help you, perform and maximize your potential over a long period of time. And it's the exact same thing we're doing with the military. Um, the we're trying to do it here over a rec cycle, like 3 times a week. They're getting exposure to some of these concepts. It's getting reinforced to them. So yeah, and you're seeing some of them take it on and develop it. And again, it's cool because even with the pilots, you're seeing them come in, at the beginning, never flying a plane before and feeling so overwhelmed by it. And then through applying these principles and developing this side of their game, by the end of it, they absolutely love to fly the plane and they see it as a challenge and they're excited to do it. And they're seeing like a setback as a learning and they're able to put it into their process. So it's cool to have lived it myself and apply those things on myself. And I wish I had more time to enjoy like the benefits of it, because I did experience like some of the best, performances that have been supported by that. And it took a while to develop that, but it's also really rewarding to pay it forward. And just to bring it back to what we're talking about, what professional soccer might look here in the future in Winnipeg, you should see some of the talent that's coming out of this regional Excel program. Like it is really incredible. And specifically on the boys side, there's a number of players that I think would be ready to come in to a professional team now. Like, and they're in grade 11, right? And there were some that are in grade 12 that graduated from the program that they're moving on to play in university that could have also like stepped in. So there's a lot of talent, and um, there is actually a foundation that a professional club can be built from local youth talents that is focused and being trained together over, their whole high school career. Think about like the brotherhood that those players are developing, that they would then be able to take in to being early professionals in a professional club and grow within that. So the foundation is there, the structure is there. I know there's good plans in place to do it on the women's side. And the girls program is also very good, and there's a lot of talent there as well. So I think that's what we'll see there. So hopefully at some point the two can be working together symbiotically, and we'll have something really special here in Winnipeg.
Well, especially too with the whole new league coming into Manitoba, the Prairies, the Premier League Prairies. Like, it's going to be really exciting to see. So we're going to see some of these talent like you talk about. I'm going to be going to these games and things like that. So it's going to be great to see that. The future's looking bright. I know it's with a bit of a dark period, a little bit of Valour, unfortunately, but there's been a lot of promising coming up from here as well. So, Jonathan, I just want to say thank you again so much for being here on the podcast. A lot of fun just to get to talk about your career. Honestly, like, I feel like I'm living vicariously through you, but I wanted to be a professional goalkeeper, and just getting to talk through your journey is just, I can only imagine some of the journeys you've been on, the travels, and just you've done it across Europe and North America as well. And to end off the podcast here, well, one final question is, who was your best jersey swap if you ever done one? Is there any players that you jersey swap with? Is there any ones that stood out to you that was the best one you had?
Funny enough, I actually haven't done any.
Really?
It was not something that we're in Europe, especially. You're given like you have like a number of shirts over the season. You might have 3 or 4,
Hmm.
and you there was something special that I wanted to retain myself. Like actually, the one I have up, you might see in the mirror there.
Yeah.
That's my Valour shirt from this season that all the players signed. That was given to me by the club on the day that I announced my retirement. But all other than them, I have them all in Ottawa like every year, and I plan eventually when I'm more settled and longer term home to get them all up in some. So I've kept a lot of them myself. I've given them a lot to different coaches that helped me a lot, and a barber in Turku, Italian barber that I became very close with. He has one of my shirts from Valour up on in his barber shop. So I've kind of given them out to different people. But the name tags, like those, I've done some swaps. So to answer your question, one of our players in Valour, Gianfranco Facchinetti,
Yeah.
my closest friend, brother, sat right next to me. When he left, I was the last person to leave the change room. Everybody cleared out their stuff and left because I was still here. I was still using the gym. And it's like kind of like when you go through a breakup phase, it takes time to get all your stuff.
Yeah.
And I was the last one to leave, and it was my name tag and his name tag were the only two up left. And then there was a picture of a portrait of Valour, like of the 3 soldiers from that grew up on the same road, that they were all there, and it was a nice kind of beautiful picture. I took that off the wall and took my name tag and his name tag, and it's now sits in my office at the 17 wing base. So it's kind of a reminder that I'm still serving the community, and I'm not serving, but I'm serving those who serve. And it's still connected to the military, and it was cool to be a part of that on the sports scene. And I have my brother Gianfranco there as a reminder, and he's doing great in Ireland. They had a great game last night. He won 1-0, him and Chris Tordick. So it's fun to still follow them. So yeah, but maybe also to answer your question, best goalkeeper I ever played against. There's been some really good ones. The coolest one, and I was so excited to shake his hand, was I played against CSK Moscow. You're gonna have to remind me of the name of the legendary Russian goalkeeper.
Is it Igor Akinfeev?
Yes, Akinfeev. Played against him
Wow.
in a 90-minute friendly in a training camp in Spain, and that was really cool. And I was so sad at the end. I had a good game to go shake his hand, and he just walked straight to the bench and didn't even look at me.
Oh, oh,
When I played against Cardiff City with San Antonio, um, Neil Etheridge, who played for Cardiff City and played in the Premier League, had a really good season.
yes.
He was really cool. We didn't exchange shirts, but we took a photo together after the game, and we had a really cool talk in the hallway about playing in the Premier League and what his experience was like. And we started in similar levels. Like he was playing in the conference and worked his way up too. So that was also a really cool one.
Absolutely. Just love to hear those stories and Igor Akinfeev. You said like there's only one Russian keeper I know, and I was like, that's the guy to be him. But
Oh yeah,
love to hear that.
that was
Well,
really cool.
Jonathan, I just want to say thank you again so much just for everything that you've done, just in terms of like you're doing for the community, still doing for the community here. Obviously, you represented the just Winnipeg proud, and I mean, just happy to have you part of the team for the last 2 years. You've honestly put in such a shift there, and then just congratulations on your retirement. What you got going on, especially in your new career path here on fatherhood. Just again, thank you so much for being here on the podcast. And again, if there's anything if you want to come back on, talk footy, you're always more than welcome. But before we kind of end up here, anything you got to shout out or anything else you want to kind of shout out before we end here?
Just honestly, shout outs to the whole Winnipeg soccer community. They've really embraced me, taken me in. I've been involved. I've gone to do some work with some different clubs, like I said, the Manitoba Soccer Association. A big shout out to Ralph Contafio. What a gentleman! What a strong presence in the city and living on the heritage that his father started and growing the game of soccer here and really developing it. And he's doing such a good job with the MSA and everyone else involved in the club there or the organization. And then also just a shout out to all my teammates that I played with over the last 2 years in Valour. Really great guys. This last year was tough. I think it's taken us time to kind of reconnect and come back together, but there was definitely a brotherhood there as well. So shout out to them, all the coaches that was involved and everybody in the organization. We did give it our best and it was difficult, but it was still highly meaningful. And I hope we were able to, make the city proud. And there's some, we heard from a lot of fans after of what it meant to them. So that was really cool. So shout out to everybody involved that it was nice to be part of something special here in this city with soccer. And I hope that I can keep going and hope to see everybody in different times out on the field, including yourself. Hopefully we'll do some work together with the goalkeepers.
Absolutely. And, I think that's just a great way to end it. I think, again, just can't wait to see what else you got going on in your career. Obviously, we'll probably, see each other on the pitch there, especially with the connection with Pedro. But as always, Jonathan, thank you again so much here for being on the Zero Football Podcast, talking about your journey and your journey with Valour and what you got going on now. We'll be sure to check you out the next episode. But again, one of the Winnipeg's brightest ever goalkeepers here to play for the province. We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.